Okay. There we go. Oh, red guy's kind of big. There we go, that's better. Yes. Oh, wait, so string trap. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay. I'm much more awake than I was last time. And, yeah. I am much more awake than I was yesterday and all those other times that I was live. Thankfully. So, let's do this.
We cover a lot of scary stuff on this show, but today is, no clickbait, the scariest topic of all. Copyrights. With a little dose of fnaf, all my favorite topics in one episode. I love 2019!
What is going on?
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, where today, call me Gloria Bolja, because our top story is an oopsie. One big oopsie made by one big man. Actually, I don't know what his relative size is. He's just big in the gaming space. That man's name is Scott Coffin. Now, if you're not familiar with what happened, let me catch you up. Last episode, we analyzed the teaser image for Scott's new VR game, fnaf Help Wanted. What I didn't mention in that video, though, was that it was only online for just a couple of hours. In fact, by the time I had gotten to check out this thing, it had been wiped clean from the internet. Only preserved thanks to some dedicated Redditors, specifically GB Oro Recharge. Now, Scott is no stranger to posting things only to rip them off the internet later. He's done it with comments on my videos, he did it with version 1 of FNAF World. His contents of the infamous FNAF 4 box, yep, those got changed. Heck, even the script for his new movie was written, approved, and ready to shoot, and then he just threw it out. It's like, this community deserves better. But this time, it was different. This time, it was because the team working on the VR game, Steel Wool, had unintentionally used fan art. As he said on Reddit, quote, "My first teaser in more than half a year was made using questionable choices at best and traced fan models at worst." He then went on 2 days later to clarify further, quote again, "As you all remember, the artwork that I teased for the game, which was actually a portion of the cover artwork, included characters that had used fan art and fan models as reference. When I learned about that, I was obviously pretty upset and took down the teaser. The person working on the artwork used images that he thought were mine. If anything, everyone who had one of their models referenced should pat themselves on the back, because your models look like they were canon. I think it's a testament to the fan community that the fan models rival mine. Many of them looked identical, and some of them looked better." So the TLDR of this whole thing is that he pulled down the teaser because it used recolored, reskinned models made by a fan of characters that Scott Coffin himself created that looked so close to the original creations that his own team couldn't tell him apart from the originals. And this sparked a really interesting question in my head. Did Scott legally have to do this? These are his characters, after all. And the fan-made models were so close that they probably wouldn't have been seen as any sort of transformative use. Now, obviously, he cares about his community a lot, and pulling the teaser was absolutely the correct decision from a goodwill standpoint, but what would the law say about this? After doing the research, it's a lot more complicated and interesting than you might think. To get there, we're going on a twisted copyright journey that'll show us why Naughty Dog lives up to its name, why your photographs of the Eiffel Tower are probably illegal, and why everyone's in an uproar about Rule 34. Oh boy, welcome online.
Oh, great.
Doesn't know what's hidden it. That's a terrible last line. Oh boy, copyright law doesn't know what's hitting it. Copyright law don't have an indicator. Just gonna segue over to the next paragraph. Oh, and before we dive into this episode, you might have noticed that I actually released another video alongside this one today. In that upload, I specifically talk about this channel and a lot of our own personal issues that we've had with fan art in the past, as well as a way to protect yourself if you're a fan artist who's working online right now. It's actually a really important video for me, touching on a topic that I've stayed really quiet about for quite a long time. So before you go down into the comments and start laying into me for not being allowed to cover this issue because I suppose
Oh, hello.
fan art in the past, please.
Welcome back.
That's actually why it's a dual upload. I couldn't really decide which one made more sense to go first, because really the two complement each other. They comment off of each other, so just please watch both. It'll do me a favor.
Happy you're here.
When I read the comments in this, save my self-esteem a lot of grief as well. Oh, the other disclaimer that I should mention at the beginning of this episode is that there's a lot of fan work out there that is transformative, that is not considered to be a copy of anyone else's work. This episode actually isn't about that. Today, we are purely focused on fan art that's intended to closely represent a character that already exists, and all the basic legal mumbo-jumbo that's around that. So, we all on the same page? We all good? Great! Let's get into it! Now, Scott is far from the only game maker that's had a copyright oopsie when it comes to teasing a new game. Case in point, the original version of the trailer for Uncharted 4: A Thief's End was released containing a painting that took images from Assassin's Creed Black Flag's concept art. The one with the pirate. I gotta give credit where credit's due here, guys. That is incredibly on brand. Stealing artwork to promote a game that has the word thief in the title. Very smart. Very meta. Ubisoft wasn't appreciating that level of meta commentary though, and Sony was quick to pull the video and replace the asset. Oopsies like this also aren't just limited to marketing materials and teasers either. Back in 2013, a graphic designer named Cameron Booth made a post announcing that he was effing furious with the fact that the game The Last of Us featured a map that he had made of the Boston Metro. First off, I'd like to point out that The Last of Us, just like Uncharted, is a Naughty Dog game. Guess we know what the naughty is referring to in their name. But after what I assume was a swift apology and a fairly decent payoff, Cameron quickly dialed back his language in a later public post, saying, "It seems as if matters will be resolved to everyone's satisfaction shortly." Great, I'm so happy for you guys. Money truly heals all wounds. But this case already starts to reveal some weird nuances of the copyright world, because while the graphic designer who made the picture owns the copyright to his map and was absolutely in his right to complain about the improper usage, he actually doesn't have the copyright to the Boston Metro itself. Does that sound dumb? You bet it does. In fact, it is so dumb that it can't be anything other than real. Real world pieces of architecture are subject to their own copyright. Just like one musician can't copy the song of another musician, so too an architect can't copy the building design created by another.
Colonel Sanders.
Things get even weirder though when you start thinking about what this means for pictures that people are taking in front of buildings. Those pictures technically are violating copyright, or at least they would be if it wasn't for this idea of freedom of panorama. You see, most countries have some law or general.
Oh no, no, this is not the last part. Look at this. Look at this. Down here is the playlist that I am watching. We are only on 28 out of 89. There's not like 89 like videos because there's some live streams and stuff, but we're skipping the live streams. We're gonna skip this one, the Can You Survive FNAF IRL. We're gonna skip FNAF AR, Can Your Phone Stop an Killer Animatronic. Yeah, we're skipping all the live streams, all the game labs, all the science of videos, but that still leaves a lot. There's gonna be at least like 3 more parts, maybe.
Place that says you won't get sued if you decide to create an Instagram story showing yourself posing in front of some famous landmarks. Notice though that I said most countries. Most does not equal all. Case in point, France. France doesn't have freedom of panorama. As a result, technically speaking, you legally shouldn't be able to post photographs of the Eiffel Tower, but only the night photographs. You see, because the Eiffel Tower without lights was built in 1889, that one is old enough to have entered the public domain. But the lights that go on at night were installed in 1985, thereby making this an artistic work with live copyright, making posting photos of it illegal. That means that anything you find in a regular Google image search under Eiffel Tower at night was probably taken by fearless outlaws who were flouting the law, throwing caution to the wind, and posting their tourist photos of the Eiffel Tower in the evening. Probably a bunch of developers at Naughty Dog being like, whatever, we don't care. We steal artwork all the time. We're Naughty Dog. We're dogs who are naughty. So what does the Eiffel Tower have to do with FNAF fan art? Well, obviously, people are taking photos of the Eiffel Tower and art getting thrown in les prisons. I actually didn't learn the word for prison when I took French. And that's because these crazy laws don't matter for people who are only using the image for personal consumption. You put an image on your fridge or you slap it on the desk at your office, you're fine. But the second you publish that image, it becomes a different story. Just take a look at any stock image website like Getty Images, which is a business built on legally owning the rights to every image in their archive, and you'll notice that most of the images of the Eiffel Tower, even the ones with low light, don't feature the lights on the building turned on. And this is where things get tricky. As if they weren't overly complicated enough. You see, if you publish a piece of artwork that features a character like Mangle or Mario or Mewtwo or heck Elsa, and you don't own the copyright to that character, then publishing that fan work is technically a copyright violation, which merits a huge question: what counts as publishing? Now, obviously, publishing includes things like putting it in a book that ends up in Barnes & Noble, but publishing actually has a much broader definition in the legal sense. Publishing, in the broadest sense of the word, just means causing something to become public or making it publicly known. That means that everything from printing up and handing out a bunch of flyers on the street, you guessed it, posting it online is covered. It doesn't even matter if it's a non-commercial type of posting. Posting fan art non-commercially on your blog or a site like Tumblr or Instagram or Twitter all count as publishing that image. And if you're thinking to yourself, wow, that affects a lot of people, yeah, it does. You're absolutely right. Technically speaking, every fan artist on Tumblr and DeviantArt and Pinterest and Pixiv and their own independent blog, they are technically violating copyright every time they post a new sketch of an existing character that's not transformative enough to be considered fair use. I know that sounds unbelievable, and that every fan artist out there is lighting their torch and rummaging for their proverbial pitchfork to come after me right now. But first off, don't kill the messenger here, guys. Legally, this is the truth based on the lawyers that I've spoken with and the legal papers that we've read. That is the letter of the law. But the letter is obviously only half the story, considering, of course, that the prisons across the country aren't filled with Rainbow Dash fan artists and bendy modelers. Though it'd be pretty funny if they were. What are you in for? Killed a guy. You? I drew a pink pony very accurately. In actual practice, the situation favors fan artists a lot more than you might first think. As you can see pretty much everywhere on the internet, it's really rare for copyright holders to try and enforce their copyright. The only instances where you see this actually happen tend to be when a brand feels that the art that's being made really misrepresents their IP. One really convenient example of this in the gaming world is Blizzard, who issued DMCA takedowns across a bunch of different fan art in efforts to stop people from making, how do I put this nicely? Renditions of Overwatch characters in compromising situations, loving each other just a bit too much for their liking. For those of you who have the foreign tongue, images of their characters in flagrante delicto, in the carnal
Embrace tranquility.
Basically, Blizzard wanted people to skip from Rule 33 to Rule 35 in the Internet Handbook, if you catch my drift. And you can imagine just how effective Blizzard was at accomplishing that goal. Not that I would know personally, it's just doing research. For a friend. Anyway, according to guidelines from Blizzard's policy on
Oh,
fan
no.
nations, they cracked down in order to, quote, maintain and protect the image of their games. They also said Blizzard requires that productions maintain the T rating that has been given to its products by the ESRB. And I get that, right? It makes sense. Well, it might have been kind of a futile effort to remove sexy time from the internet. Legally speaking, they're entirely within their legal right to protect their brand. But speaking of legal rights, it is a two-way street. Even though a company owns the rights to its characters, you, as the fan artist, own the right to your individual piece of fan art. So going all the way back to our example of FNAF fan art, which there's a lot out there, if you drew a picture of Freddy and the cupcake, what are the actual rights for that image? Well, Scott owns the copyright to the character, but you own the copyright to that specific image. So you can't publish it, you don't own the rights to the character, but Scott also can't publish that image because he doesn't have the rights to your artwork. You are both caught. As it turns out, no one really has the rights to publish that image. Unless, of course, you both agree to it, but good luck there. Scott doesn't talk to anyone. Except for Dawko. Probably his secret son. I don't know. He talks to Dawko like all the time. Now, what would have happened if Scott hadn't owned up to his oopsie?
That is true.
And it actually escalated. What could the fan artist who created those character models have done to him? Turns out a very similar issue has come up and was settled in a fairly famous case with the iconic Obama Hope image from that election. The artist of the famous Obama image, Shepard Fairey, who is actually one of my favorite street artists, created the artwork, but he copied the image from a photograph of Obama that he, quote, found on the internet, but it was owned by an independent photographer from the Associated Press. In court, the ruling was that the Hope artwork infringed on the copyright of the original photograph. The original owner of the photograph now participates in all money that's earned by the rights to that image. This is also the one case where I'll actually mention fair use, because Shepard Fairey actually tried to make the argument that his work here was transformative. The court didn't buy it. In fact, he almost went to jail. The upshot of this whole thing is that, in theory, if a legal fight like this one would have happened in Scott's case, it could have very easily landed both parties in court, and it would have actually been pretty hard for Scott to win. Luckily, none of that happened. And I think a lot of that is because Scott holds himself to a higher standard and wouldn't have wanted to do a disservice to his fans. As he said in his apology, quote, "The only thing I care about is doing right by this community." Good on you, man. But there is another compelling reason for Scott to take that teaser down. Money. You see, the other big complicating factor in all of this isn't whether someone is really infringing on their copyright, but whether they're actually making money while doing the infringing. In the United States, criminal copyright laws prohibit you from actually using someone else's intellectual property for your own financial gain. This means that when you post your fan art online, you're not going to face any criminal liability. Fan artists, you are good to go. Sketchy nerd t-shirt companies that are selling unlicensed Nintendo merch, though, you might not be so safe.
Stop! You violated the law. Pay the court a fine or serve your sentence.
Likewise, if you're selling your own posters of your fan art images, well, that could land you in some legal hot water as well. And I know that this is the most sensitive subject around fan art because of all the commission that artists earn by doing fan art made to order for other members of their fan communities. I'm not condemning anyone. I'm not passing any sort of judgment on anyone else's online business. As someone who uses a lot of online images of other people's IP, I'm kind of digging my own grave here as well. This whole topic just makes me uncomfortable. Especially since that's still not the end of this whole story. There's still only a select couple of ways that you could actually be sued, even if you did commercialize your fan art. The company would need to show in court that your art had damaged their company in some way, using the naughty Overwatch picture example again, if I can. If Blizzard took the fan artist's court, they would need to prove that somehow this adult-only content had damaged their brand in some way. In their case, Blizzard is trying to market their game Overwatch as a family-friendly experience for all players ages 13 and over. And so the brand may actually get hurt if the first thing that comes up when mom starts Googling Orisa is a bunch of this. Very family-unfriendly images. How much? Though? It's actually hard to tell. Well, it seems like they would actually have a good case. It's still really hard to quantify how much their brand would get hurt by stuff like this, which is blurry behind me. For your safety, I swear.
Your safety is my primary concern.
And that's a pretty clear-cut case here. In most instances, fan art doesn't compete with the official images from games. So what does all of this mean for you, the fan artist? Well, it means that you probably don't have to worry about getting sued. And even if you are getting close to getting sued, you're probably going to know that you're doing something wrong long before anything happens. Like in 2015, the Pokemon Company went after a cafe that ran a Pokemon party unofficially at PAX that promoted itself using Pikachu posters and charged an entry fee. Or, in another case, a woman was threatened legal action from 20th Century Fox because she was selling a Firefly-themed hat on her Etsy store. So, long story short, just don't charge admission to your next Pokemon-themed birthday party and leave the Firefly apparel for Hot Topic. But to bring it all the way back around to FNAF one last time, while Scott doesn't stand to gain a whole lot by suing his fans over their creations, he does stand to lose a whole lot if he uses a fan-made model in the box art for a VR game that is for profit and could potentially make millions of dollars. See, if he kept those fan models in his box art, it would, in theory, open him up to a much bigger legal problem where he might have to pay thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars in royalties simply for using those pieces of artwork. So, Scott's decision to take down the teaser image was certainly the right thing to do from a moral perspective, but it's also the correct thing to do from a business perspective. I mean, don't get me wrong, Scott is all about giving back to the FNAF community, but maybe he's not interested in giving that much back. But hey, that's just a theory and certainly not legal advice. Consider this your official legal disclaimer that I am not a lawyer, even though we talked to a lot of lawyers for this episode. And if you get yourself into hot water for making or distributing fan art, you can use this video as an interesting talking piece with your legal counsel, but don't assume that I, Matt Pat, will be standing up for you in court as your legal defense. Here, watch this YouTube video about FNAF fan art. No, it's not really gonna work. Okay? Okay. Keep farting it up out there, guys. And remember, that is just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Alrighty, that wasn't really a FNAF video, but no, I think it's fine. Alright, let's continue. Where are we at? Ooh, we're finally getting to Help Wanted. And we're straight into it.
It's back. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that clearly doesn't understand the meaning of the word final. It's finally over. That is the end. FNAF's lore theory NAF is at its end. The end. Final FNAF theory. But can you really blame me? These games have confirmed endings in FNAFs 3, 4, 6, and Ultimate Custom Night. It's like Doctor Strange saw 14 million different endings and Scott Coughlin was like, I'll take them all. Beginning to think FNAF World's inclusion of FNAF 57, Freddy in Space was less of a joke, more of a preview of coming attractions. So anyway, it's back. Call it whatever you like. FNAF 7, FNAF VR, Help Wanted, Matt Pat Insanity Simulator. But after a year of detoxing, Five Nights at Freddy's is back with a new official game in the series, and it's, more so than any other installment, feels like an inflection point. A game that is simultaneously looking back to pay tribute to where these games began, as well as a game that's looking forward to lay the groundwork for where this franchise is headed. This isn't just some quick VR cash grab for the series, this is a pivotal game in the canon that closes the book on the old lore and also launches us into FNAF the next generation. It seems to answer some old mysteries from the previous games, all while opening up the themes and tone for what's to come. And there is a lot to unpack here. This is, without question, the meatiest game in the FNAF library, which is impressive because it's still a VR title. So let's not waste any time and get started with the basics. Now, in case you don't have a VR headset, I've actually played through the entire game on GT Live, so you can check out all the highlights.
No! No! Oh! Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me? Did we do it? And lowlights of my playthrough over there.
Hello, boys and girls. I'm here to give you your happiest day ever. Come with me, wayward souls. We've got vengeance to strike.
But let me quickly take you through what you need to know for today's theory. In Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, we're playing as a beta tester for a new Freddy game. As we're told in the opening cinematic,
We know that Fazbear Entertainment has developed something of a bad reputation over the last few decades. While it's true that some stories associated with our name were loosely based on actual events, the majority of them were total fabrications from the mind of a complete lunatic. Lawsuits pending.
and yes, that picture is really Scott Cawthon canonically inserting himself into this game. That is a discussion for another episode, my friends, because it throws all sorts of weird monkey wrenches into the lore, but we'll get to that later. So according to the intro, Scott's games gave Fazbear Entertainment a bad name, and the point of this Freddy Fazbear virtual experience then is to poke fun of their past, clear their name, and ultimately rebuild the Pulse of Faz fans, fall in love with all these new characters, and add to Scott Cawthon's growing pile of money. Speaking of merch, Fazbear Entertainment is once chilling for their supper. Game Theory merch is also some new theory wear. Link is right up here, or is on the top line of the description. Now with that out of the way, back to VR. Playing through the game, it is legitimately impressive. Pretty much everyone here is recreated in a stunning 3D environment. Bonnie, Baby, Funtime Freddy the Puppet, heck, even Easter egg appearances by Mini Renas and Lolbit. Characters that most of you watching this probably haven't even heard of before because you have much better things to do with your brain space than I do. Practically everyone is here in this game, except for one important omission. Golden Freddy. I mean, Ballora isn't around either, but you know, I said important. But that seems weird, right? I mean, this is a game that drops you into perfect recreations of the first 3 installments of the series. You don't just forget about one of the most important characters to the lore of these games. Well, that's because it isn't some careless oversight. Golden Freddy isn't here for a reason. It's our first clue that this game isn't just a joke and is a canonical entry. Specifically, it tells us where it falls in line with everything else that we've played through. Golden Freddy isn't here because she's busy hanging out in HE double Chica arms with William Afton. Think back to the end of Ultimate Custom Night and our previous theories. By tracking the voice lines used throughout the game over screens, we were able to piece together that we're playing as William Afton in that game, child killer extraordinaire, and that the whole game was him trapped in heck to atone for his sins. And the thing that was keeping him there was the one he should not have killed, a girl named Cassidy, the spirit who had an axe to grind, possessing the Golden Freddy suit. The reason Golden Freddy isn't in FNAF VR is because the spirit is down there tormenting Willie A forever, from here until the end of the series. That's why the ultimate ending of Custom Night was Golden Freddy twitching off into the darkness. Cassidy never gives up her soul, no matter what Old Man Consequences said. Further cementing that Help Wanted is now at the end of the FNAF timeline is this miserable little creature right here, the Scrap Baby plush. Because why wouldn't you want to cuddle with something that rips in half and eats children alive? Let me remind everyone who doesn't have an encyclopedic index of all 60 plus animatronics that have graced the screen in this franchise that Scrap Baby is the homeless hobo version of the old baby after escaping sister location and who was voted out of the Ennard tribe sometime between FNAF 5 and 6. Her only on-screen appearance is in FNAF 6, so the fact that a reference to her exists in this game at all means that it must come after her expulsion from Ennard, sometime definitely after FNAF 5, but again with Golden Freddy missing, that seems to secure it after everything's burned down and closed. So we have ourselves a company that's trying to rebuild its reputation after a series of tragic events. Seems pretty simple, right? Of course not. This is a FNAF game. You know that the story is never going to be that obvious. Hidden throughout the game are cassette tapes that, when collected, unleash a new monster into the hallways of this pizzeria. What the game's files refer to as Glitch Trap. A yellow bunny with purple eyes. Yellow bunny with purple eyes, you say? I think I might know where this is headed. As you collect more and more tapes, this glitch rabbit comes closer and closer, becoming more and more fully formed. Beat all the minigames, and you unlock the final challenge, Pizza Party. A nightmarish fever dream that mashes together every location that you just played through. Waiting for you at the end of this horrific maze is the single scariest moment from the entire franchise. And I can't emphasize that enough. It is literally chilling. What you learn is that you, 7-year-old, have been lured to the back room of Freddy's. And what awaits you is your pizza party, complete with your favorite flavor of cake, all your best animatronic friends, and then Glitch Trap calls you to follow it. The The music fades. Suddenly you're on stage. You're holding Freddy's microphone. You are Freddy. You've been stuffed. You are now a missing child, watching as your killer dances gleefully to the song that you're being forced to stand up on stage and sing. This isn't just a spoopy jump scare of some goofy character. This is real horror. So it definitely seems like this new character...
This trap really is creepy,
I
actually.
mean, sure, the suit isn't as bulky as a Springlock suit, but he's got all the other qualifications down. Yellow bunny fursona, check. Association with the color purple, check. Enjoys children's pizza parties, just a wee bit too much. Big old check again. Then again, to call this character William would be missing a huge chunk of this game's story. This isn't William. Like I said, he's trapped in eternal torment with Cassidy, listening to Barney the hippo over here tell his life story.
Dry bread was always fresh on Tuesday. They made sourdough bread on Monday and threw it out Wednesday. What was I saying?
No, to understand who, or better put, what this thing actually is, we need to examine the tapes that summoned Glitchtrap here in the first place. Scattered throughout the various minigames are 16 glitching cassettes left behind by a former game dev, Tape Girl, which, when put together, tell the story of a failing game company, a bit of malicious code, and some very stabby office supplies. We're also introduced to the story of another beta tester who was in our position before us, named Jeremy, making this the third time that the name Jeremy has appeared in these games, with the first being FNAF 2's Night Guard, and then again on the gravestones in FNAF 6. Coincidence? I think not. The first tape immediately makes it clear we're not picking these up in chronological order.
There are more. They may not be in order.
Which leaves us the task of shuffling them into some modicum of sense in order to put the story together of what really happened while this game, the game we're supposedly playing now in its final form, was in development. Going through the tapes, I've done the shuffling for you, and I think I've come up with the most cohesive narrative based on the evidence and what Tape Girl actually says. She begins by telling us that the game's then playtester Jeremy has been complaining to his manager Dale about nightmares. Except he's not explaining them like they're nightmares, he's talking about them like they're real.
He wasn't talking about it like someone telling a friend about his dreams, though. He was pale. He doesn't even jump anymore. He just stands there like he's talking to someone.
Pale? Doesn't react to scares? Talking to themselves? Sounds to me like he's going crazy. Either that or he's just a FNAF YouTuber. Hashtag relatable, am I right? The game he's working on is this one, Freddy Fazbear's Virtual Experience, which includes some code that was inherited from Fazbear Entertainment. Hand off some old hard drives to save him time and money.
It was just junk. Circuit boards and things like that. It seemed to take hold by itself. But then, he started appearing. At least that's what Jeremy said.
Manager Dale doesn't seem to take Jeremy's warning seriously, however, and instead he starts documenting all of Jeremy's behavior in preparation to fire him.
You can always tell when a company is getting ready to fire someone. The thing about it is that I don't think they were going to fire him because of anything he was doing wrong. They just knew he'd seen something.
This confirms for us one major detail, that the scariest thing in the FNAF universe is crunch time. Working long hours until you're driven crazy and then fired at the end? Man, it's just like the real-life games industry. It's uncanny. These games just get more and more realistic. So Jeremy is going crazy and no one is listening. Flash forward to tape 6, where Tape Girl talks about coming in early one morning to see the supply room lit and Jeremy in the dark into testing. It's a short tape, but it's an important one because it sets us up for tape number 9, when we learn that what she saw looked like a Halloween mask laying on the ground and a bunch of ink both on Jeremy and scattered around the floor. But that's not ink. That's no mask. The ink is Jeremy's blood, and the mask is actually Jeremy's face, which he presumably sliced off his own body using the aptly named guillotine paper cutter. We know this to be true thanks to tape number 4, where we hear Tape Girl say that the cutter comes from the supply room and that Jeremy expressly knew where it was.
I didn't even know we had one in the supply room. I was always afraid of losing a finger. That seems so silly now. Jeremy used to do design work. I guess that's how he knew it was there.
And for as extreme as this sounds, we know that he sliced off his face due to all these seemingly minute details about how his face was obscured that morning.
I went back and peered in the window. I couldn't see his face. He had the visor covering his head.
Anyone else getting some bizarre Bite of 87 vibes from this story? No? Is it just me? So Jeremy eventually dies from his injuries. After Jeremy's death, things start getting even weirder, which is a relative statement considering that this is the FNAF franchise we're talking about. Tape Girl overhears a conversation about a lawsuit in the aftermath of Jeremy's death, which makes perfect sense given that he died a horrific death on the job. In response, the company starts taking some serious steps to cover their tracks, namely to sell off the game and destroy evidence that could incriminate him. In the meantime, Tape Girl takes over Jeremy's role as playtester, and all we can hope is that she really cleaned that VR headset before she put that thing back on. She has 3 days to playtest the game. Across her audio logs, we learn that in that time, she sees Glitch Trap for the first time and comes to learn that he's attached itself to her audio logs. She tries to delete them, but can't. So instead of deleting them, she fragments and disperses them into the 16 small pieces we've been collecting throughout our playthrough, warning us that they shouldn't be reunited at any cost.
Hide all traces of these logs that I've created. I fear that finding them and reassembling them will also reassemble the very thing I've tried so desperately to destroy.
Whoops! Probably shouldn't have hidden that info on tape 15 of 16. After that, though, she seems to backtrack on her story, saying that in fact the entity in the game can be killed, and that to do so we should reassemble the tapes. Odd, but okay, we've got them all anyway, so might as well see what we can do. Glitch Trap attacks us once we have 16 tapes, and if we don't respond in time, we trade places with him. For a brief second, we see through his eyes back down at the console that we were just operating. Our consciousness has truly melded with his, just like the voiceover warned about at the top of the game.
Asbear Entertainment is not responsible for accidental digital consciousness transfers.
So that's a bad ending. But if we do manage to properly follow Tape Girl's instructions as he's trying to mind meld with us, well, he still seems like he escapes. Or at the very least, definitely doesn't die. This should have been like some Mr. Smith in the Matrix moment where all his code disintegrates or something. But instead, we're trapped on one side of a door in the game. A bloody, hand-printed door with scratch marks clearly showing people stuck in here desperately trying to escape. And we see Glitch Trap practically skipping off into the darkness. This doesn't seem like the ending we should be getting for putting all the pieces of the tape together and following all the tape maker's instructions. That would basically mean that FNAF VR has 3 losing scenarios here. Getting stuffed at the end of the pizza party, transferring consciousness on the home screen, and getting locked behind the door if you choose to follow Tape Girl's instructions. That can't be right. Can it? Well, maybe it is. Maybe that's the point of the game. Maybe we are destined to lose no matter what we do here. I mean, think about it. The canon ending of Sister Location was a bad ending, with Michael getting scooped. The canon ending of FNAF 4 was a bad ending, with the crying child getting bitten. In FNAF 6, you and literally everyone else burned to death. I mean, it's considered a victory, but you're still dead. Now, let's look closer at the text of the audio logs. There is something clearly wrong in them. The tapes start out just fine. They follow her story in a pretty logical way, and we know she's a real person in the real world because she's observing things from outside the game's testing room. Things like Jeremy complaining to management and the stuff that's present in the supply room. But then, upon closer inspection, you start noticing some strange anomalies. For instance, we have 2 tapes that both start with her introducing who she is. A hi or a hello followed by, you don't know me, or can you hear me? Which is our first hint that something's a bit off. The same person is making these tapes the whole time for the same audience. So why introduce herself to us twice in both tape 1 and tape 15? Why would one end with her saying,
Now I fear that those logs are being used as a Trojan horse. If you're unable to abandon development, hide all traces of these logs that I've created.
basically telling us to hide the logs, but then also say this?
There are more. They may not be in order.
Basically inviting us to put them all together. Weirder still is the fact that the last file suddenly does this major about face relative to all the previous logs, where suddenly she says out of nowhere, oh yeah, there is a way to kill Glitch Trap. This is odd on a lot of different levels. The first and most obvious being, if these instructions really do work and she's so sure about it, why didn't she follow them? If this method was actually effective and she knew it was effective, Glitch Trap wouldn't be in the game anymore, because she would have followed her own advice and wiped him out. How would she even know that this system works? The answer is, it clearly doesn't. Or at least it doesn't do what she says it's gonna do. That's because she's not trying to get you to kill off the entity in the code, she's trying to get you to release it. While we don't have every piece of the puzzle in this story, here's what I think actually happened with all these audio tapes. The tape maker starts out genuinely making these logs to document the weird stuff that's happening in the game studio. The stuff with Jeremy really happens. She really sees Glitch Trap in the game, but on her last day of playtesting, she tries to delete the files and fails. Instead of killing Glitch Trap, she undergoes a digital consciousness transfer, just like we do in one of the 3 bad endings, trapping her in the game and releasing Glitch Trap, presumably into her own body, or just releasing him into the real world. Both of which are possibilities that the game explicitly warns us about in the opening sequence.
Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for accidental digital consciousness transference, real-world manifestations of digital characters.
That, my friends, is why you always have to read the disclaimer. From inside the game, she's now stuck, with her only hope for escape being to go through the same process she just went through from the other side. She creates a new log, starting over by saying,
Hello? Can you hear me?
which in reality is saying, hello, can you hear me in here? Since she's now making the log from inside the game. She tries to create a new story that encourages a future developer to piece the logs back together, and then seeds one final log out there to tease the idea that a future developer can solve the problem by killing off Glitch Trap using her log assembly method. It's smartly constructed, because she's counting on future developers having the same curiosity and determination she did. She even mentions this in one of her earlier logs, tape 3, that when Jeremy had told the developers that something was wrong,
But as a dev team, we all just saw it as a challenge to find what the problem was and fix it.
we do exactly the same thing, finding what's wrong and following the instructions on how to fix it, only to find ourselves on the wrong side of the door covered in handprints, where presumably lots of other people have been there before us. Glitch Trap, or whoever is in the body of Glitch Trap at this point, perhaps Cape Girl herself, disappears into the darkness and takes over our body outside. And now it's our turn to wait for the next beta tester to come in, follow the tapes, and hand over their consciousness to us. Now, that last bit there is speculation based on the oddities in the audio logs and the fact that following her instructions results in seemingly yet another bad ending. But even if all of that about consciousness switching and her being trapped in the game and us taking her place trapped in the game isn't the case, the point is, William's back, just not in a way that any of us expected. What seems undeniable in Help Wanted's story is the fact that his consciousness was preserved in the circuit boards that got scanned to make this game. And now, he's here, as Glitch Trap, tricking players into letting him escape. It's no longer the same guy. He's now an AI replicating the behaviors of William, and snatching
It's a mimic.
whenever the completionist is determined enough to play through all the elements of the game. In a funny way, it's exactly like the story we've been piecing together for Petscop. Actually, maybe they really are one and the same. Hopefully, by Scott Coffin. The biggest lingering question now in my mind, though, how many Williams are out there? Is this just one instance of an AI looking to escape, and now we're the new host body? Or is it somehow able to replicate itself, copying and pasting its code into any mind out there that's playing its little game? Could we be entering a new part of the FNAF franchise with multiple William Aftons, all in completely different bodies? For as cool as that would be, and honestly I think this game could open up that world, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that's why there's such an emphasis in this game on you being a beta tester. It's one instance of corrupted code and you happen to be playing it. And now you're infected by it. In the next generation of FNAF, you, or at least your body with William Afton's code in your head, is the new killer. And so on and so forth until we finally get a FNAF in space. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. And we should probably talk about Jeremy. It's weird that his name is used 3 times. There is no possible way that that's meant to be a coincidence. There's also this random appearance of Shadow Freddy, which I found in my playthrough, which again, seems like an odd little detail that's important to account for in the Pizza Party minigame. And the fact that Glitch Trap has 3 toes, just like the footprints that are outside of FNAF 6's house window. There is a lot more here in this game, but I honestly just need more time to think it all through. Rest assured, though, I'll be back.
I always come back.
And that, my friends, is why you should subscribe and...
Hello, Switch Zone. How are you? So, that one was good. Oh, I know, this is one of those, the science of. Yeah, I'm skipping the science of.
The books offer a closer peek at Henry and William Afton, how their partnership flourished early on, and how their view of the animatronics evolved over time. Thoughtful fans might want to give these sections a closer look to determine how they impact the story of the games as
I'm
well.
good.
Right there, clear as crystal. For years, I've been trying to piece together the story of these games, right? But one thing has
Hello,
always
Nil.
served as a major sticking point, and that thing has been these books. Now, admittedly, these books enter the series at a tough time. FNAF 4 had released a few months prior, the game that, to this day, serves as the single biggest point of frustration for anyone trying to piece together the lore. Scott always trolls us. See also the repeated use of the name Jeremy. But this one game was just too much. It was a game that played with so many different ideas. It played with dreams and dates and bites and balloon boys and new characters and new toys, kids that looked like established characters. I mean, what was real? What wasn't? No one had any idea. And still to this day, we are at a loss about what this game means for the entire franchise as a whole. And then, shortly after that, FNAF World would enter the picture, and, well, we all know how well that one went. So, needless to say, it was a sensitive time for the series, and sandwiched in between it all was the Silver Eyes, the start of the novels, a story set in the FNAF universe, but not really? Question mark? Scott Johnson, when the books first came out, tried to make it clear what role these played in the story, but I don't know if it helped things. Here's his quote. The truth is that after a while, lore can become so dense
Please don't leave me.
for a story anymore.
I need friends.
Is that what makes for a good game doesn't necessarily make for a good book. Sometimes a
Thank
timeline
you.
is so full that the only way to tell a real story is have that story set in a different timeline, an alternate universe, a different location, or perhaps from a vantage point that isn't
Ouch.
entirely what it appears to be. It's an interesting quote. True to Scott's style, it doesn't give anything away. I mean, everyone immediately latched onto this idea that the books were somehow a separate and alternate universe. But if you come back and read that quote again, like I just did here for the first time in years writing this script, it's actually only one of the possibilities that he raised. In fact, now that all three of the books have come out and completed the main story arc, we actually know
Thank
what
you,
they
Peter.
were. It was that
Plush
last bit,
reviews.
a vantage point that wasn't entirely what it appears to be. Now, spoiler alert for the books, but basically at the end of this one, the grand finale, Fourth Closet, it's revealed that our main character, Charlie, is an animatronic recreation of a dead girl. That the brilliant roboticist Henry, co-founder of Freddy's, had a daughter named Charlotte who was kidnapped and killed by his partner, William Afton, at the age of 3.
Yo.
And that out of his grief, he rebuilt her. And that the character that we've been following for all three of these books isn't actually a human being, but just a glorified animatronic that grows older with time. Now, it sounds really weird, but here, let me explain. So, the 4 closets, what that's in reference to, basically Henry created 4 versions of that robot, each one meant to simulate a different life stage that she would never get to experience. Toddler, tween, teen, adult. Thus allowing this robot child to grow up over time, infusing each one of those robots with fabricated memories of a childhood he created using a camera and tripod. And if you think that sounds weird, then you haven't finished reading this book, my friends, because this book jumps so many sharks. But that is nothing compared to what this book does to the animatronic baby that we all know and love. Baby, you know, the clown girl. Well, in the books, she's actually the perfect 4th adult version of Charlotte.
For
she's
some
also
reason.
the robot that still, like we see in the games, devours William Afton's daughter Elizabeth and then goes on to get possessed by her. So this one robot is simultaneously Elizabeth's soul inside of Charlie's adult body, but in addition to dancing and singing and extruding out ice cream, she also has the ability to switch between looking like a passable human, so much so that a character in here actually gets aroused by her. No joke, and also expanding somehow into a giant clown-shaped robot, the one that we all know and love. She does this by using a combination of needles with little balls on the end, as well as sound illusion discs. I mean, how ridiculous is this, right? It's a good thing.
So, to people that are coming in now, we are watching more FNAF game theories. Yeah.
Nothing that stupid appears in the games. know that Purple Guy's name was going to be revealed as William Afton before Sister Location actually revealed that to be the case.
Those are the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton.
Nailed it already! These are the things that confirm that Susie and Fritz were missing children's incident victims before it appeared in FNAF 6. The fourth closet explained what Candy Cadet stories were all about. 5 animatronics, 5 souls, all melted down into one entity. But because my theories based on the books tended to frustrate hardcore community members, I backed off of using them. But here we are now, me sitting on the couch reading this, the Friend Files Updated Edition, which, in addition to including more fan art than a typical game theory episode, also has that quote that I mentioned from earlier. Here on page 222, second to last page in the book, thoughtful fans might want to give these sections about Henry and William a closer look to determine how they impact the story of the games as well. It's no denying it now, friends. These things, right over here, these 3, they're important. They are huge to see. So, in today's theory, I threw away everything. All our assumptions, all the things that I thought we had solved from the games. And I took a fresh, clean look at this franchise, this time starting from the perspective of the books. And that brought me down an insane thought train. Now, I don't necessarily think that today's theory is right. I definitely think that there are plenty of holes in it, but I also don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for the story that Scott is trying to tell. It's a theory that's worth chewing out, because it simultaneously overturns a lot of the assumptions that we've made about this series, while also filling in a lot of logical holes in the timeline of events. This is a big one, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. Big like what we missed in FNAF 4, kind of big. Here's my theory for you today. Mustard Man. You know, orange guy from FNAF 6. I'm gonna say he's Henry, original creator of the animatronics, co-owner of Fredbear's Family Diner. That would make this Henry's house. In turn, that would thereby make FNAF 4 his house as well. And if that's his house, then this is Henry's son. This is Henry's other son. That's right. Crying Child isn't any member of the Afton family. He is Henry's son. And then that would make this and this Henry's daughter. And therefore, this then would be Henry's daughter's empty room. Now, hold on. I am sure there are plenty of you hardcore FNAFers out there who are ready to tear this huge list apart. This is clearly the Afton household. We have established this time and time again since the release of Sister Location, but stay with me. Sit back, relax. My kid, pull out your pen and paper, start taking notes for your angry rage comment down below. This is a FNAF theory unlike anything we've ever talked about, so
Let's just jump into it.
So I already told you the big reveal at the end of the fourth closet, that our protagonist Charlie is a robot built in the image of Henry's dead daughter. But there is one last twist here. On the very last page of the book, we go to visit Charlie's grave. The real Charlie, the child who was kidnapped and killed at an early age. It's a grave that ends up high on a hill under a lone tree, similar to a very familiar scene that we see in the games at the end of FNAF 6, the gravestone. And on it, we're told the following words were etched into the stone. Beloved daughter, Charlotte Emily, 1980 to 1983. First off, her last name is Emily. I mean, there's no other name written here, so that isn't her middle name. So Henry's last name...
Bye, Peter Plush Reviews. Nice to have you. Yeah, thanks for joining. Okay. I was really bored today, so I watched the hour-long GT Live video analyzing the FNAF movie trailer, lol. Wow. Yeah, when I'm bored, I do stuff kind of like that.
Name is Emily. We're talking about the Emily family household. It's just weird. I mean, this is a book series filled with animatronics that are possessed by human children and metallic soul glue. But Emily as your last name? That has to be the single largest stretch of imagination out there. And no offense to anyone with Emily as their actual last name. I know it's a real thing. I'm just over-exaggerating my rage for comedic effect. But the important thing here is the date, right? Born in 1980, died in 1983. 83. Should sound familiar, right? Well, why does it matter? FNAF 4. FNAF 4, a game that ends with someone getting themselves bitten, is not depicted reenacting the bite of 87 like we all assumed when we first saw that scene, but instead is a game that is set in the year 1983. It frustrated everyone. I mean, why would you choose to do that, Scott? It made no sense for the story that we had become familiar with by that point in the series. It made no sense until today. We know that the gravestone is real. We know that Henry truly has a daughter who dies and goes on to become the puppet in the games. So what if that death took place in 1983 like we see in the book? Opens up a lot of possibilities. You see, the other thing that never quite gets explained is this empty girls' room that we're allowed to explore throughout FNAF 4's minigame. Clearly, there's a reason it's here, but we never get a clue as to why or who that room could belong to. This, in turn, led all us FNAF theorists to speculate wildly about the owner of this room. Anyone with 2 X chromosomes was up for debate. This pigtail girl, and that was it. Honestly, because she was literally the only girl that was introduced into the series at this point. Later, when Sister Location came out, we got ourselves a second girl, and everyone celebrated. It was Afton's daughter, Elizabeth, so that room had to be hers, right? I mean, the game was even alluding to it being hers because it was the Sister Location. But let's stop for a minute and question all of those assumptions, because that's what they are, really. There's not a whole lot of proof here. What if that girl's room in FNAF 4 belonged to Charlie? Charlotte, Henry's daughter, who dies in 1983. I mean, the room is empty after all. And we're not seeing a whole heck of a lot of girls wandering around the playground area. And the year certainly matches the year of the disappearance and death from the books. Could that girl's room in FNAF 4 actually be Charlotte Emily's room? Could this whole house from FNAF 4 actually be the Henry Emily household? Consider this. In the second novel, The Twisted Ones, a climactic final battle happens in an underground animatronic facility. Sounds a bit like our Sister Location. When our heroes emerge to the surface, they find themselves in the ruins of a familiar house. Here's the quote. "Don't you see where we are?" Charlie whispered. "John, it's my dad's house. It's the room we found." The underground facility isn't under William Afton's house. Instead, in the books, it's hidden under Henry's house. And now, what do we see in the games? A hidden facility buried directly under the FNAF 4 house. A house that we've been assuming up until this point to be Afton's house. But it's starting to look more and more like it might be Henry's. And that's not all. Let's take a minute to flash back to FNAF 6, shall we? Now, overall, I feel like we've done a pretty darn good job of wrapping up this game's loose ends. We know all the names on the different gravestones. We know what Candy Cadet is rambling on about. We know that Fruity Maze girl here is Susie, who gets lured away and stuffed into Chica. Heck, we even know that the game itself, this building, could be the potential box where the pieces all come together and eventually get...
Oh no, the Crying Child was not born in 1980. He's talking about Charlie, or the puppet. I wish they did more game theory videos with the face cam like this one. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like them both.
Get burned away. But the one thing that we don't know is the answer to Midnight Motorist. A minigame that, true to form, was the one moment in every FNAF game where everyone collectively looks at the screen and then slams their head on the desk. What? There's an orange guy now? Who the heck is the kid? Where did he go? Why is his window broken? Why are there footprints outside of the window? What is going on? I mean, we have smoothed over so much of this franchise, and I feel so confident about so much of this lore, and that game, that one little mini game is the one that just like niggles the back of my mind. If I could ask Scott Kaufman one thing about this entire franchise, this is the one that I want him to explain. No joke, I don't care about anything else. This is the one that I feel so befuddled at, why I'm so determined to solve it, and why I'm doing today's theory. Because in the past, I felt fairly confident saying that the mustard man here is William Afton, because he drives a purple car, and he's driving away from the scene where the puppet girl died. But now, I'm not so sure. It always bothered me, and literally everyone else, that a guy who has been associated with one color, the color purple, for the entirety of this franchise is suddenly orange. Tried to dismiss it as Scott pulling a Scott, but you know, that's not the most satisfying answer. It doesn't feel conclusive, you know? And more importantly, those footprints footprints outside of the window. I mean, why are they there? Either an animatronic went to meet this boy outside of his window, but that seems unlikely based on how we know these animatronics behave, or it was someone in a costume showing up to lure the boy out of his room. That one definitely seems like the more likely solution, but the only person in the entirety of this franchise who would do something like that is big ol' Willie A. And why would he do something like that to his own kid in his own house and then get mad about it? Things just don't add up cleanly. It's a question that really started to bother me when I was playing FNAF VR Help Wanted. Glitch Trap is clearly modeled after the first suit ever used by William Afton. You can tell based on his stitching. This is a hand-sewn bodysuit rather than any sort of animatronic suit that we would see later in the series. This also coincides with the timing of the Midnight Motorist cutscene, which shows the birth of the puppet, one of the first major deaths of the entire FNAF story. Glitch Trap's suit also very distinctly has 3 toes, just like the footprints outside of the boy's window. Now, as we know, Scott Coffin likes to clarify things in his next game. And if there was one huge question mark left from before, that Midnight Motorist minigame was it. So we have ourselves a suit that would have been in use around the time of the minigame, as well as a matching foot pattern to the design that we see in the minigame. Heck, we even have ourselves a potential reference to it from Ultimate Custom Night and the Toy Chica cutscenes.
He'll be mine by the end of the day. I just know it. I told him to come over later. That should be enough. And if he doesn't show up, I'll just go to his house. And if he doesn't open the door, I'll just find a window.
And here's where everything starts coming together. Let's assume that William Afton, in his Glitch Trap suit with its 3 toes, is the one who's standing outside of that window, outside of Henry's house. He lures the crying child.
Honestly, if a guy in a rabbit suit that looks like that showed up to my window, yeah, no, I would not follow.
Child out. Now, Henry's son, to bring him back to the place that he loves more than anywhere else in the world, Fredbear's Family Diner. But we know that this is also the night where William takes his first victim, Charlotte, who's killed outside of the diner. This would explain why in FNAF 6, the crying child would actively run to Fredbear's against his father's will, but later, come FNAF 4, he would be terrified of stepping foot there. Remember what you saw and all that, as Psychic Fredbear reminds him constantly. He saw the murder happen that night. That is what we're seeing in that FNAF 6 minigame. Meanwhile, we have ourselves the Mustard Man, who we're assuming is going to be Henry. He has a kid who has not only run away on multiple occasions, but is so determined to do so that he's willing to break through his own window to get there. So, how do you keep him safe at home? Well, you lock him in his room, just like we see happen in FNAF 4. But maybe locking him in his room isn't enough. Maybe you also have a series of security cameras hidden around the room. Heck, hidden around your house, hiding a security camera inside the Fredbear plushie that he takes everywhere. To keep your son safe, to keep track of where he is at any given point in time. Heck, maybe you could go so far as to design sound illusion discs to make him scared of the animatronics that he's seeing. His once beloved animatronic friends now terrifying to him, causing nightmarish hallucinations of the characters, just like the discs that we see hidden inside of Funtime.
But William Afton made those, and also William. You just contradicted yourself, Matt. Come on. William Afton made the sound illusion discs, and he's the one that has cameras at Henry's house. So, it's not Henry's office, it's William's. I just don't get it.
The same discs that Henry is confirmed to have created in the books. These two, right here, they play a huge role in these 2 books. Though most of them in the books bear Afton's name, they were originally created by Henry in an attempt to warp the world around him, to hide from the grief that he felt after the loss of his child. Discs that, wouldn't you know it, Afton hides inside the Funtime robots, just like we see in the games. But, as we see in FNAF 4, it isn't enough. The crying child still winds up at Freddy's, he still gets himself bitten, and he dies. With that iconic line in yellow, "I will put you back together." Now, remember that quote I keep going back to in this book right here, second to last page? Thoughtful fans might want to revisit sections of how Henry and Afton robots change over time in order to determine how they impact the story of the games? Well, Henry in the books uses the robots to bring his daughter back to life. He rebuilds her. He puts her, quite literally, back together. He used the robots to try and heal his grief. I mean, if anyone in this series is gonna say a line like, "I will put you back together," it's Henry. Heck, maybe Mustard Man is the
We have officially hit the 1 hour mark.
color that he is in order to better match the color of his FNAF 4 text. "I will put you back together" in yellow. And yeah, sure, it's yellow and not orange, but
Have I ever played a FNAF game? Yes. Yes, I have. Actually, today I was playing the console versions of FNAF 2, 3, and 1. First of all, they stink. You can't really do anything in them. E. Rip Crying Child. Hi, Floor. What'd the floor do? Floof. Oh.
guess what? Purple Guy was pink in his first outing. As the series has gotten darker, so too has the color palette. But seriously, there are two colors that are relatively similar. Maybe there's a connection there. And if the crying child is indeed Michael, as I've talked about a lot in past theories, Henry literally rebuilds his lost son like he does his lost daughter in the books, explains all of the weirdness of Mike's behavior throughout the series. How he's able to survive being scooped, how he has fragmented memories of his past, how he doesn't die after puking up mom's robot spaghetti, how he's only able to die by fire. It's also worth noting that at no point in the series is Michael ever explicitly identified as Michael Afton. Now, it seems like Mike in Sister Location is referring to William Afton as father.
Father, it's me, Michael.
And him saying, as Springtrap appears, definitely makes it seem like he's going out and looking for William, but that may just be another Scott misdirect. It's open to interpretation. I mean, this scene alone still has people convinced that
Michael's fucking
Springtrap
sprite so
is
confused.
Mike trapped.
You know what? You know what Michael's walking sprite reminds me of? Oops. Right this. This is what the Michael Afton walking GIF looks like. Walking thing looks like. That's his walk animation. Yep. All right.
Still has people convinced that Springtrap is Mike trapped inside of the suit. Mike Trap, even though I feel like it's pretty well established at this point that it's William Afton in there. It's still Will Trap. But there are people who are vehemently determined that Mike Trap is the reality of the canon of this series. Regardless of the whole Michael stuff, William Afton in these books is all about achieving immortality through the robots. He's interested in...
I mean, doesn't it look like it? It looks so close.
Replicate the living metal that resulted from their deaths. That's why we see him tearing apart the robots in FNAF 3's minigames. He wants access to their metal. He wants to harvest it to run experiments. He wants to melt down those living endoskeletons so he can harness the possessed metal to create the Funtime animatronics. I mean, that is the whole point of Candy Cadet's stories in FNAF 6. 5 things melted down to create one thing, and it's exactly what we see happen as a huge plot point in the final book. Henry, on the other hand, is the emotional one. He's a creator who gets too invested in his own work. He's a bit of a neglectful father while he's alive, but he's devastated when he loses his daughter, turning to the one and only thing that he knows and understands to try and bring her back: robots. He goes to extreme lengths to use his robotic skills to try and bring her back to life, and he does it. He succeeds. He creates the most absurdly lifelike humanoid animatronics ever in science fiction, and they have to be to do some of the stuff that you see happen in these books because it is absurd. But if we are truly meant to apply the themes of these books to the games, then this isn't the Afton family household. It doesn't make sense. It's the Emily family household. It would explain the factory under the house. It would explain the empty girl's bedroom in FNAF 4. It would explain the 1983 date that we're presented with. It would say why Mustard Man is yellow, why there are footprints outside the window, why the crying child is suddenly scared of Freddy's, and it would even go so far as to explain the line, "I will put you back together." I mean, are there holes to this thing? Absolutely. Are there things that are difficult to explain? Are you kidding me? This is FNAF. Gonna be true no matter this is William's house, Henry's house, or the frickin' White House. It's an extreme theory, but I think it's one that's worth considering because of its alignment with the books, and because of the lingering threads that it answers. Which is why today, I encourage you to discuss down below in the comments, discuss over on Reddit, and most importantly to remember that it's all just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Okay. That one. I don't believe that one. I don't think that one's... Yeah. Alright.
This guy was going just a little over the speed limit. Look at the damage.
Ready to have your...
What was that? That ad. What was that?
Ready to have your mind blown by FNAF yet again? Let's do a little trick, shall we? I'm in the process of currently downloading and installing brand new copies of each and every one of the FNAF games, so you all know that we're working with a blank slate here. But the games that we're specifically interested in are FNAF World and Ultimate Custom Night, the free ones. Huzzah for not having...
I was just about to say that.
For literally like the 4th time. Let me just open up both of these on the computer to show you that we are working with absolutely clean and fresh copies of both these games. Open up FNAF World. The first time that we open this, we should get that cutscene of the 2 yellow beady eyes telling us that something has happened out in the world. There it is. We're just gonna wait here a second while that dramatically plays. We hit start, and you can see here, literally nothing on screen, right? We have slots 1, 2, and 3, all empty, no trophies along the bottom. And that's the important point here, right? Each time you beat the game, you get a different trophy along the bottom based on what ending you got. So notice 0 trophies, 0 endings, 0 gameplay. Okay, so we're gonna fix up that. Fantastic. Hopping on over to Ultimate Custom Night, there is no high scores unlocked. We have no power-ups that have been given to us. Our office is the default office. Nothing, right? No creepy cutscenes of Toy Chica in her skimpy school uniform. Nothing. We are clean to go. Nada. Now, let me set the scene for you, right? If you think back to the release of Ultimate Custom Night...
Yes, I know what Garden of Banban is. I mean, I wouldn't say it's good. I'm sorry. I wouldn't say Switch Zone. Where have you been? The Grimace Shake has been like a giant thing. It came in with like a meal. Garden of Banana, yes. I wouldn't say Garden of Banban is good. I would say it's getting better, but I wouldn't say it's good. We're just gonna have to wait because Personally, I think, I don't know. I feel like, I don't, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't, it's okay. I'm just gonna say that. Exactly. It's trending. Wait, are you talking about the Grim? I don't know.
We were all really excited to see who would be included in this mega list of
Funtime Freddy's still on the game.
who's who in the FNAF universe. This big final game to celebrate the ending of the series, burning things to the ground at the end of FNAF 6. Some of the inclusions were obvious, right? Like the 70-plus versions of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Springtrap, Golden Freddy, and the Puppet, right? They're in practically every game, they're super important to the lore of the games, no big surprises there. But then, when the roster kept expanding, you got to some weird inclusions, right? You got yourself Music Man over here. Why? El Chip, which is basically just a glorified...
One of the stages of grief is denial. This is Matt Pat before DJ Music Man. And this is...
over here. Why?
This is pre-Music Man. And then you can see what happens after Music Man.
Which is basically just a glorified reference to like one of his failed games before Five Nights at Freddy's. Strange, sapient pile of garbage over here. Like, not people that you would immediately think of as being
Where's Funtime Freddy?
list of characters in this franchise. But of them all, there was one inclusion that felt the strangest of all to me. This one right here. Old Man Consequences from FNAF. A character who, if you're not super familiar with that particular game, is your punishment for going too deep into the code of the game. You see, FNAF World is a video game that's aware that it's a game, right? And throughout the adventure, you repeatedly have to dive into these glitches to unlock new parts of the world. But you're repeatedly warned against going more than 3 layers deep into those glitches, otherwise you're going to be trapped there forever. And once you know it, that's exactly what happens if you don't heed the warnings. You wind up at Old Man Consequences Lake, trapped. What makes it so weird to see him here, though, in Ultimate Custom Night, is that FNAF World is a game that Scott has largely disowned. He's embarrassed of it, and it's a game that's ultimately been dismissed by the fan base as non-canon, in part because of those reasons, but also in part because it seems more closely tied to the book lore than it is to the game lore. And yet, here he is, Old Man Consequences, in Ultimate Custom Night, alongside characters that are definitely canonical, in a game that is also canonical, right? It has the canonical ending of William Afton suffering eternal torment at the hands of Golden Freddy. It's almost like Scott Cawthon is telling us that Old Man Consequences is implicitly canonical. He's canonical by association. So, why do I bring all this up? Well, there's an Easter egg in Custom Night that you've probably seen back when people were playing that game, right? You set Old Man Consequences to a difficulty level of 1, and you start your night. I'm gonna turn off the fan, and here we sit. There's no one here to attack us outside of Old Man Consequences, so hopefully he shows up. Oh, and here's Dee Dee, who has, by proxy of doing this, ruined our opportunity to unlock this Easter egg, so we're going to restart. Please alt for this game. We're gonna try again. Reset the ventilation, thank you. Oh, there is. Boom. Good. So now, here we go, right? We're falling, quote unquote, falling through the source code of the game. We wind up.
How long is this intro?
Consequences late, right?
This is a long intro.
During people's gameplays. But here we go. We go to Old Man Consequences over here, and he gives us his line. Come and sit with me a while. Leave the demon to his demons. Rest your soul. There's nothing else. We concluded in one of our past theories about Ultimate Custom Night that this is Old Man Consequences talking to the vengeful spirit that exists inside Golden Freddy, trying to tell him, hey dude, chill out, move on with your afterlife. Just let William Afton suffer on his own. Because if you listen to the audio that's playing in the background of this scene, you can definitely hear him suffering. Well, it's either his tormented screams or, you know, Scott Cawthon shouting through a fan. Now, most people seeing this Easter egg would be like, well, now what do? There's nothing else. I guess I gotta restart the game. Alt F4. And already, this would be a really cool, really elaborate Easter egg. However, For those of us who have played through and know FNAF World better than we probably should, we know that there is one final thing that you can do in this scene, right? You can move on over to the top of the lake, and you can drown yourself. Now, in that game,
That's
when you
fine.
did this, it would actually reveal a secret ending that is completely hidden from that game's texture files. It shows a person standing alongside two smaller figures in front of this flashing TV screen. It's a parent and their two kids, or at least that's as much as I can make of it, right? And sure enough, you can actually do the same thing here in Ultimate Custom Night, going into the lake and drowning yourself. Except here, it ultimately crashes the game. Going deep into the lake. Uh-oh, I'm trapped in the water. Oh no! It's like quicksand. It's not so much a lake as it is quicksand, but here we go. We're going down into the lake, deeper, 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 and it crashes the game, right? We're back to the home screen. No hidden ending or Easter egg there. But here's where things get crazy. Instead of me booting up Ultimate Custom Night again, we're gonna hop back over to that brand new, fresh, clean copy of FNAF World that I showed you earlier. Here we go, FNAF World. We have not played this game whatsoever, and we hit start.
Game over.
That's what happens when you, that's what happens when you play FNAF World.
Stay in
You
your game
die.
with DoorDash.
Oh, come on.
Wouldn't you know it? Without playing a second of this game, look what suddenly appears on our menu screen. A trophy that you unlock in FNAF World by visiting Old Man Consequence's Lake. In other words, these two games, but more importantly, in the lore of this franchise, these two worlds are connected somehow. But what does all this mean? That, my friends, is our episode for today. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the channel where it's always April considering the number of Easter egg hunts we go on. So, that connection between FNAF World and Ultimate Custom Night was originally discovered by Reddit user Roxas Lucario, and it ultimately hinges on an info file that collects variable information from across the various games. For instance, the first time you start up FNAF World, you're presented with an opening cutscene.
Something went very wrong, but that's why I'm here. I will put you back together.
Great, awesome. Go to the info page after seeing that creepy opening cutscene, and suddenly the trigger first is activated, presumably telling the game that you've seen that scene once before, so for all subsequent playthroughs, you don't have to see it again. That's how these sorts of variables work. But what's weird, though, is that the trigger for this drowned ending and unlocking the trophy is titled Beat Game 4, which might just mean it's the fourth ending of FNAF World, fine, but why then would Scott use that exact same variable name in Ultimate Custom Night? It's not like there's multiple endings in that game, and it's not like Ultimate Custom Night is the fourth game in the franchise. Him using that exact same variable name suggests that the connection between the two was very much intentional, and that, my friends, is just scratching the surface. Because this small but very, very important Easter egg starts laying the groundwork for where this series is ultimately
Goodbye, Floofer,
where
Schmoofer,
FNAF
Loofer,
Beyond left off, and where the
Poofer.
new FNAF AR game, the special delivery releasing this October, is taking us next. Oh yeah, didn't you know? There's a new FNAF AR game and it's right around the corner. There's a trailer for it and everything. Because my torment is year-round and unceasing. Looks like we're gonna end up playing hide and seek with a bunch of animatronics, but
That'd be
that
cool.
one in a
That'd be
minute.
cool.
FNAF World was a game that was largely ignored by us theorists because, well, look at it.
You won't get tired of my voice, will you?
I'm not sure what
But in all seriousness, for all the memes all this franchise has, it's never been particularly meta. The lore, on the whole, was its own self-contained story within this fictional universe. The only times things got truly meta was in FNAF World, which sure helped us to predict the appearance of Baby and Henry into the mainline games, but it was also the game where Scott Cawthon literally appears as the final boss, complaining about how sick he was of pumping out new games for our insatiable appetite for animatronic dad. Scott, you're our mama bird, my friend. Puke that sweet, sweet lore down into my gullet. But you can see why most of us would take this as a joke, right? Scott isn't a character in the FNAF universe. So it has to be just another game for the lols. Except now, Scott is a character in the games. As of FNAF VR, it's revealed to us that Scott, since the beginning, has played a critical role in the lore of the FNAF universe.
We know that Fazbear Entertainment has developed something of a bad reputation over the last few decades, and while it's true that some stories associated with our name were loosely based on actual events, the majority of them were total fabrications from the mind of a complete lunatic. Lawsuits pending.
And if that wasn't explicit enough, the secret tapes hidden throughout the game make it even clearer.
They lied to us. They lied to all of us. They told us that the whole point of this VR game was to undo the bad PR done by a rogue indie game developer who supposedly made up a bunch of crazy stories that tarnished the brand.
Don't have to tell me twice, that rogue indie developer is obviously Scott. And that's just where it begins, because FNAF World was trying to tell us something else about where this franchise was headed. Video games crossing into the real world and vice versa. You see, FNAF World is a lot of things. A lot of things. But its main plot revolves around the aftermath of FNAF 4. We're told when we first boot up the game that something has happened out there in the real world, and it's having an effect in here, the sanctuary, the world of this particular game. From there, the rest of the game features a main quest that's completely hidden. You could go through this entire game and never come across the actual real plot of this thing. The only way that you would know about this is by accidentally lingering on the first dialogue boxes of the game, which in turn releases glitched 8-bit Fredbear. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Who are we gonna call? Glitched 8-bit Fredbear.
Yeah.
In turn, unlocks separate missions to find clocks, and it's here that we find our first instance of video game to real life crossover. You see, each clock is a minigame that connects back to FNAF 3 and all the individual steps necessary to unlock the Happiest Day cutscene. That game's good and canonical ending. If you think way back to that game, it always bothered me that punching random blocks on a wall or double-clicking a random poster in your real-life security office was somehow allowing us to put the spirits of the dead children to rest. But FNAF World gave us an explanation even though we ignored it back at the time. FNAF World, the game world, or more accurately, the spirits that are trapped existing in that game's code were able to push out and affect
Goodbye, Wonder 2 Furious.
minigames. That's how you get these kind of video gamey moments in what is otherwise a realistic, albeit haunted setting. Now, why is any of this important? Why are we talking about it now so many years after these games were first released? Well, because it's only starting to matter now. It's exactly what we saw happen at the end of FNAF VR Help Wanted. That game established sentient code that was looking to escape from its video game prison.
It was just junk. Circuit boards and things like that. Looked pretty old. Somehow, though, there was usable code on some of it. It seemed to take hold by itself. Things started changing.
What I'm saying here is that in the official lore of the series, official lore that is apparently dating back further than we would have expected, computer code is somehow able to store the minds or spirits or whatever of these characters and eventually rebirth them out into the real world if the right steps are taken. See also Pet Scott. And in FNAF VR, we see an instance of this happening. William Afton, who was trapped in the circuit boards, was released into the code of this new game, Help Wanted, where he then took the form of Glitch Trap until finally, through us playing the game and collecting the tapes and putting the pieces back together, was able to escape again. But this time, he was able to escape not just from circuit boards, but out into the real world. All of it, all of this goes back to the story that FNAF World was trying to tell us years ago. The story that we all didn't take seriously because the final boss was literally an impervious rainbow.
Are you kidding me?
Come on!
What? What?
This is Sadie. She's on Verizon, and she's got the new My Plan. She gets exactly what she wants and only pays for what she needs. She picks her perks and saves on every one. Make your move to My Plan. Act now and get it for $25 when you bring your phones.
What about me? I'm here.
I'm only just realizing it now, but Help Wanted is actually a cute and really brilliant name. I mean, we all thought it was help in terms of like a want ad, right? Help as a video game tester, which is the core premise of the game, but it's also help wanted. Glitchtrap wanted. Heck, he needed our help in order to escape. So, well done, Scott. Good name. Just like Pizzeria Simulator riffs on the idea of simulator games, but really it's an empty box waiting as a trap to catch the final animatronics and burn them alive. Or how Sister Location is all about a separate but related robotics business, but also about a key character's sister, maybe? Question mark. Well done, Scott. Well done. Slow clap. Now, you might be thinking, wow, malicious code, people trapped in video games? This sounds nothing like the original story that started off this whole franchise. And yeah, that's entirely the point. The old story of Five Nights at Freddy's was, at least in part, a complete lie.
They lied to us. They told us that the whole point of this VR game was to undo the bad PR done by a rogue indie game developer. But that's not true at all. Fazbear Entertainment hired the game developer. Those indie games were designed to conceal and make light of what happened. This isn't just an attempt to rebrand. It's an elaborate cover-up.
Let me rephrase what we just heard. Scott is one of the bad guys. Based on the lore in Help Wanted, he was hired on by Fazbear Entertainment to create the FNAF games. Give us the spooky ghost stories that exist within them and in turn distract us from the real truth. Distract us away from what Fazbear's goals really were. He was lying.
God.
If FNAF VR's tapes are to be believed, pretty much everything we know from the first 3 at least, but maybe even 4, 5, heck 6 games could all be thrown out as complete fabrications created by Scott Cawthon for the sole reason because he was paid off by Fazbear Entertainment. This thing, Glitchtrap, might not even be a recreation of someone named William Afton. Heck, William Afton might not even exist.
I never liked that. Wait, what? Oh my goodness. You know how lately YouTube's been look at this. These chapters are auto-generated. You know how like YouTube's been going into like videos and doing auto-generated chapters? Look at this. Scott Kaufman. Scott Coffins. Snaffle delivery. Oh my goodness, this is the best.
Though, to be honest, he probably does since he's mentioned by name at the beginning of FNAF Sister Location, and FNAF VR seems to replicate his original primes pretty darn closely. So I'm gonna assume that some of that is actually true. The long story short here is that FNAF VR, in making Scott part of the Fazbear cover-up, is the franchise's way of rebooting the story for the next generation, telling us that with FNAF VR, we're starting an entirely new lore. In disowning Scott's story as lies, it's explicitly telling us that everything we've known up to this point is wrong. It's a distraction. Instead, the real story, the story that's going to be told to us via the next generation of Five Nights at Freddy's games, is carrying forward the core themes and ideas that were first introduced to us back in FNAF World. A story of video games, code, all coming to life and crossing over into the real world. And funny enough, if we look back to FNAF World, it was trying to tell us the truth about this theme the entire time. As 8-bit Glitch Bear tells us in that game, don't be deceived by the one pulling the strings. It's why Scott is technically the final boss of the game, but the true ending, the clock ending that unlocks the key Easter eggs from FNAF 3, it has nothing to do with him at all. It's entirely disconnected from why Scott is there. Again, the indie developer known as Scott Cawthon within the FNAF lore is trying to distract us away from the truth of what we should be doing in these games. And if you think I'm reading too much into this, think again. Scott is trying to clue us back into the importance of FNAF World. As many of you know, Scott has his website, scottgames.com, where there's always some new teaser image and stuff hidden in the source code. And on there right now is a really cool teaser for the next FNAF game coming out in 2020. Clearly, by looking at it, it's a FNAF Stranger Things crossover, considering the 1980s era neon-themed mall straight out of season 3 of that show. But what's a little less well-known, though, is Scott's second site, fnafworld.com, which is
Actually, are those sites still up? Yeah, the canon event. I also saw the movie. I've seen that. Yeah, there's nothing up. That stinks. They should, Scott should do, like, he should put up a poster, like, some FNAF movie teaser or whatever.
For a really long time, dormant. You see, it was complicated to have a big old number 58 smack dab in the middle of it. And when you brighten things up, because you always brighten things up when you're given something by Scott Cawthon, you see a bunch of funny reviews appear for whatever this new game is going to end up being. Now, the number 58 might seem like it's completely random, right? A weird, mysterious number, but it's actually not. It all goes back to, you guessed it, FNAF World. In that game, there's a playable demo for the latest unreleased FNAF game, Freddy in Space. That game's number, installment number 57. Meaning that Scott's next project, or at least one of his next projects coming out in a few months, is going to be another wacky minigame with lore connections potentially hidden inside of it. In fact, if FNAF 57 Freddy in Space is to be believed, as you play through it in FNAF World, the next installment is going to be titled Poopits in Space, which sounds completely dumb, but you saw those hidden reviews. We're not super positive about whatever FNAF 58 is shaping up to be. And heck, you don't even have to take it from me. It is coming straight from Scott's own disembodied head floating in a jar from that game. Like I said, FNAF World is weird. And we are still not done. The idea of games and code, digital horrors crossing over into the real world is becoming more explicit in his other new game that he's working on. The one that we know is releasing this October. FNAF Special Delivery, an augmented reality title that, based on the trailer and the title, will have animatronics being dropped off into your house. Sure, the idea of using your phone to see the animatronics roaming around your home might just seem like a fun, quirky new way to play these sorts of games, but from a lore standpoint, you wouldn't be surprised if what this is actually doing is forwarding the core themes of the new direction for the story of these games. Deadly characters starting off as harmless pieces of code and then escaping out into the real world through your device. It's happened with Glitch Trap. By the nature of augmented reality, it's literally happening again in this game. Any way you slice it, the lines between reality and fiction are getting blurrier, and it's Scott, FNAF World of all things, that are serving as the bridge linking those two worlds. It all started coming to a head with FNAF VR, but starting this October, don't be surprised if this franchise, as we know it, really starts to change. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. Me put up the subscribe button so you can click it and join the army of...
Alright. That one was... I don't like the theories where they're like, the original FNAF games never happened. I don't like that.
Ready for a huge special announcement? Me, Markiplier, Doggo, the kings of Five Nights at Freddy's, together in one room against a brand new FNAF game with thousands of dollars at stake, live.
Also, the 58 game that he was talking about, I'm pretty sure that was a security breach Fury's Rage. Just because, like... Or maybe it was Freddy in Space 2. It was probably Freddy in Space 2, actually. I don't know.
Have your attention? Great! Because it's happening right here on the channel, December 3rd.
And this
Mark
already
your calendars, you're not going to want to miss this. But why are we doing this, you might ask? Well, every year Steph and I try to do at least one... Not scary. By helping the campaign and donating either today or during that big live stream event. Now, enough with me on the couch. Let's get to the episode. Hello, Internet.
Spooky.
Welcome to Game Theory, where today it's time to meet a new villain, because FNAF's next major killer has a face, a voice, a motive, and we even know their name. So today is actually going to be a big one, my friends. The official game may not be releasing until 2020, but we're already well on our way to understanding where this franchise is headed next. Just as long as Scott doesn't shred it, burn it, mix in another 5 monochromatic characters with frontal lobes bit off, dreaming on their deathbeds. You see, over the course of October, we saw the release of FNAF VR Help Wanted's Halloween DLC, The Curse of Dreadbear, which at this point is getting close to like the longest game title in history. And despite the game's repeated insistence that this little fall fest was purely for fun,
keep in mind that this DLC pack is nothing more than a festive holiday-themed add-on, which has absolutely no hidden intent or purpose.
we all know that's a complete lie. One does not simply include casual references to 1983 in a Five Nights at Freddy's game. And when it comes to Easter eggs, I'm not just talking about one or two things here. Whether it was the FNAF 4 house perched high on a hill in the background, trick-or-treating at an animatronic-filled mansion, inching your way through FNAF 4's haunted hallways, or just taking a Disney ride that suddenly goes off the rails to revisit a familiar-looking pizzeria, Easter eggs were hidden in every pixel of this DLC. Here's a list of a few that were worth calling out but don't merit a full-fledged theory. First, the masks that you wear for the trick-or-treat minigame are most likely the real-world versions of the masks that we see the bullies wearing during the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 bite. This reinforces the idea that in the grand timeline of events, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was popular enough as a franchise by 1983 to have its own line of Halloween masks. In other words, it's more evidence to suggest that this location that we see in FNAF 4 isn't the first pizzeria. It's not the beginning of the timeline. Point number 2, when you win a minigame, you see posters randomly generated around the walls. The thing is, all of these posters have appeared in a previous game, FNAF 6 Pizzeria Simulator. They appear in the alleyways where the salvage animatronics can be found. Man-Wolf clown pictures referencing Baby, and Spookfest. What's particularly interesting, though, is that Spookfest one, which could in fact be referring to the exact fall festival that we're attending. That poster in particular almost felt like a random addition to those alleyway scenes, and as we know, Scott don't do coincidences. It's also worth noting that I've seen one playthrough from the channel Johnny Blocks that had 3 clown pictures appear on the walls. After throwing a dart at each one, the barn suddenly switched over to rave mode. Black lights on for the party, becoming possessed by Golden Freddy. We can tell that as evidenced by the HP banner hanging over the top of the barn. Now, I can't confirm whether this is real because it's the only playthrough I've seen been able to do this, and also spawning 3 clown pictures randomly is just seemingly impossible odds.
Welcome back,
Also,
Switch
this
Zone.
is weird because from a lore perspective, Golden Freddy at this point should be hanging out in the afterlife with our dearly departed William Afton. But still, it is something that's definitely worth calling out, and if any of you out there have a means of testing it, go forth and double check it. And lastly, during the game over screen, you see a giant dread bear looming over top of the hillside covered in gravestones. On top of the hill, you can make out what appears to be some sort of purple glitch. By hacking outside the bounds of the game, just like the channel Kuno Leo did, you can see that it's indeed a glitching gravestone, surrounded on all sides by 7 normal-looking gravestones. Now, 6 gravestones would seem to be a reference to Pizzeria Simulator's gravestone ending, symbolic of the 5 murdered children during the missing children's incident, as well as Charlie, the girl who dies and goes on to possess the puppet. In short, William Afton's 6 victims. But then, what's a 7th gravestone doing there? Well, in my estimation, that one would seem to belong to Michael Afton, his son and his final and unintentional victim. Which would suggest that the glitching gravestone is William Afton's grave. It's got the purple color, it's got itself the glitch, which clearly ties it to Glitch Trap, but further cementing this is the texture that you see running along the grave, which, while hard to make out, clearly has rabbit ears. But it's the last and hardest to achieve Easter egg that I want to focus on today. The one that reveals our new killer and starts setting up the story that we'll be watching play out over the next few years of games. You see, William Afton has started himself a cult. Let's call it the Cult of Glitch Trap. And it's going to be our job to rescue the people who've fallen under his spell.
That'd be a really cool game, though.
FNAF episodes, I've been talking a lot about how FNAF VR Help Wanted is a passing of the torch, a sort of reboot for the series, an ushering in of the next generation of stories that this franchise wants to tell. Stories that, yes, still come from the series' murdery past, but also move beyond it, beyond the timelines, beyond all its baggage, now with new faces and new murder to be done. And the Curse of Dreadbear DLC confirms that theory. Yeah! Ring the bell, my friends! That's right, I got a FNAF theory correct. The largest, longest, and quite frankly hardest minigame of the DLC pack is called Corn Maze, which has Dayglow Foxy hunting you down as you search for keys in an abandoned maze filled with what are truly the scariest part of the game, really loud crows. Oh, no! counter located at the middle of the maze, one that resembles our prize card, except now it's all torn up, looking like it's been slowly laid to waste with time. But there's a sinister gift waiting for us on the table, a white bunny mask with a fleshy, almost bloody interior. We put it on, and our breathing slows. We calm down. Our character is suddenly at peace. But there's more. Back in the prize counter, we suddenly have the option of wearing the mask again. Putting just the mask on doesn't do anything except obstruct your vision because masks suck. But if you put it on while holding Glitch Trap, suddenly someone, a woman, starts to speak.
Yes, I hear you. I know. No, there's no miscommunication. I understand. Yes, I have it. I made it myself. I think you would like it. No, no one suspects anything. Don't worry. I'll be ready, and I won't let you down. It will be fun.
The #1 most dependable mass market brand, 3 years in a row by J.D. Power.
A woman having a sinister one-way conversation with someone. Something. I don't think I need to spell this one out for you, right? She is clearly talking to William. Glitch Trap. The fact that this conversation requires you to be wearing the mask, which represents her, and holding the rabbit, which represents him, seems to be all the proof that we would need. But now let's look at specifically what they're saying. Based on her saying things like, yes, I have it, I made it myself, you would like it, she seems to be referring to the bunny mask. That is her creation. The voice, William, clearly dictated to her that she needed to create some sort of bunny mask to carry on his tradition of Flappin'-themed murder. The line, no one suspects anything, clearly seems to indicate that she's been hiding in plain sight, much like a pizzeria's security guard who's planning to kidnap kids. Or, as I brought up in a previous theory, a game tester who's suddenly been brainwashed by a rogue piece of malware. Which leads us to the other lines about there being no miscommunication, being ready, and not letting him down. Those all seem to indicate that William senses hesitation or fear in the woman about fulfilling on his plan. This is reinforced by the name of this voiced character. On Scott's Voices.com page, where he tends to hire out actors for their various roles in the game, the listing was named Reluctant Follower. So this woman is clearly a devotee of Afton, but she's hesitant. I mean, going so far as to actually kidnap kids and, turn them into remnant soup or something is a lot to ask anyone, honestly. It's also important to note here that the word reluctant doesn't necessarily mean unwilling. I mean, it can, certainly, but in this case, it seems like she's trying to please her master, William Afton, saying things like, I think you would like it, and convincing herself that this will be fun. It's not that William has control over her body and is forcing her to do things, she's just nervous to take that final leap. What this all tells us is that William has been successful in what Tape Girl warned us about, that FNAF VR is a Trojan horse. It's carrying the virus that is William Afton. Now, whether that's in his code or AI or it's just his spirit being passed along isn't really important. What matters is that he's suddenly able to enter the minds of its testers. It's why we hear the story of Jeremy throughout those FNAF VR tapes. A man who went crazy and ultimately sliced off his own face. He was probably starting to slip under the control of Glitch Trap, but tried his best to fight back in whatever way he could. That's also why every ending of that game is a bad one. The fact that we need the green bunny to hear this dialogue confirms that all those vague cutscenes at the end of the game are of him escaping. Because without the tapes, Glitch Trap is still disassembled in the game, and this dialogue of a brainwashed devotee isn't possible. But what we're also learning here is that while Glitch Trap is able to invade the mind of a person, he can't fully possess their body. He's limited to only being a voice inside their head. He has to convince them to do his bidding and continue to push them to fulfill their mission. Mask Girl is scared, she's hesitant, she's reluctant, and must be cajoled into acting on William's wishes. She's slowly descending into madness. And wait a minute, why does that sound so familiar? Oh yeah, because it's one of the upcoming projects that Scott's been teasing for the better part of the last year. It's a pretty accurate title for a game where your villain starts as a normal game tester, but then is forced to listen to the voice in her head telling her to kill. It's also worth noting that there's a similar conversation currently hidden in the source code of Scott's website, except here we actually see both sides of the conversation.
Stay the course.
I will.
Focus on my voice.
I will.
Don't let anyone lead you astray.
I won't.
Have you selected one?
I have.
That line of, don't let anyone lead you astray, portray really stands out. Again, reinforcing this idea that the followers aren't fully under Afton's control. Saved in some way, just like people in a real cult. It looks like we might be able to save these innocents from Afton's grasp before they commit any sorts of crime this time. And where will those crimes be happening? Well, a few weeks ago, this was the image on Scott's website. Just more cool 80s-tastic FNAF teasers for the new game that's coming out in 2020. But when the full Dreadbear DLC was released, the image got altered slightly to this. Notice those floppy ears? Looks like our new killer might be on the hunt in the mall. Looks like 2020 found itself a new female FNAF killer. And if she's truly working undercover with no one suspecting anything, clearly she must be a mall cop, segueing to a murder scene near Spencer's Gifts. And I would end it there, except we can also figure out her name. Brightening images, digging through source code, that is so FNAF 1.0. At this point, the series is 5 years old. It's matured, and the fan base has matured, and the way that we're able, and perhaps even expected, to dig for clues has gotten significantly more advanced. It's like an arms race. Scott finds a new way to hide clues, one person in the community breaks the code, and suddenly it's in our tool belt. Next time he releases something, boom, we immediately whip that tool out. That sounded wrong. Maybe let's not whip out our tools and instead smartly and respectfully remove that tool from our tool belt and apply it to the problem at hand. Let me give you an example of this. Brightening images. The first 1 or 2 times Scott did this, it was completely unique. No developer had ever really done anything like that before, and as a result, it took a little while to discover his hidden messages. But after 1 or 2 times, now we know it's a trick he can use, so no one even bothers to look at the image itself. It's just straight into those contrast sliders. The same thing with looking at source code, the same thing with digging through game files, and on, with each one slightly more complicated than the last. And now we've unlocked ourselves a brand new clue-finding technique. In the source code for Scott's site, the shadow image and its previous form were both named the same thing, 7_1. FNAF 7 Teaser 1, nothing too exciting there. But that's only the name that Scott wants us to see. You see, I learned a lot from making an ARG over the last year, and one of the biggest tricks was that images can be opened as text files using a program like Notepad, and that the text often reveals a lot of secrets about the history of a given image. Like here, if I open up a JPEG of one of our Minecraft thumbnails, you can see that it was saved using Adobe Photoshop, even down to the specific version. You can even see that there are some text layers here, and what those text layers are called, labeled title, hardwood, and ouchie tree. We're very creative with our layer codes. Anyway, if you open up the first of these 2 Scott Games image files on the site, you see that even though it's called 7_1 in the source code, its original file name was Glamrock Fred Poster. Very cool, eat your heart out Stranger Things in American Horror Story. It's FNAF's turn to revisit the era of big hair and even bigger shoulder pads. So we know in 2020, in this new game, we're going to be introduced to the Glamrock animatronics. Very cool, gnarly, totally tubular. No, that was a 90s thing. Wicked, I think, was an 80s thing. Anyway, if you open up the new version of the image, the one with the rabbit shadow, we see that the true name of the file has been changed. It's no longer Glamrock Fred Poster. It now reads Shadow of Vanny. So it would seem that Vanny is the new name of our killer. It's an odd one to be sure, but I honestly don't think that's it. I actually think it's probably a combination of her real name, Vanessa, and her mask. The White Rabbit, or Bunny, Vanessa Bunny, Vanny. Just like Will Trap and Mike Bot and all the other weird ship names we have in this franchise. Oh, every time. So there you have it, my friends. Preview of the coming events in the FNAF franchise. It's the story of Vanny, Vanessa Bunny, a normal person driven into madness by the voice of William Afton, talking to her in her head to go out and kill people. She might be the only one right now, but there could be hundreds out there. A cult of Glitchtrap, if you will, following in his Bunny Toad footsteps. And we know that this is the case based on the fact that Glitchtrap is still seen dancing in the background of that DLC. He is now apparently able to copy himself. It's worth noting that that's an Easter egg that was left in, actually overwriting an oversized Dreadbear. So you know that this one's intentional, right? It says that Glitchtrap is a copy, and that he's able to copy himself over and over and over again. The cult of Glitchtrap spreads. Now we just have to wait for the next sign of that killer to strike. Maybe it's in the new book series that starts coming out in December. Maybe it's in that new game that Scott's sending us on December 3rd for our big St. Jude charity live stream. Who knows? But in the meantime, stay vigilant, my friends. And remember, it's all just a theory. A game theory.
It's the boys! It's the boys! Feel free to screenshot. It's the boys!
A theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Alright, I'm done. I'm tired for tonight. I've been streaming for almost 2 hours now. So, before I finish up, I have a request. Out of everyone that is still here, I know that Switch Zone has already done it, but a few days ago, I made a community post on my YouTube channel telling people to make something that is called an OC trap. So I'm going to show you what an OC trap is. Just let me... Alright, there we go. This is an OC trap. Right here. So basically, you just make like a joke spring trap. And I want these to take over the internet. We need to make them everywhere. Or at least that's what I want. So, just like, if you make one, please post it on all your socials. And you can also tag me. I have a Reddit, I have YouTube, as you can see. And also do hashtag OC trap. You can make a video about it and stuff, but make sure to tag me because I want to see it. And that is all for tonight. So, thank you for joining, and goodbye. Let me get rid of this. Yeah. Thank you for joining me tonight. I will hopefully see you in the next live stream that I will be doing on Friday, I think, because I'm going on vacation. I'll still post like community tab stuff and stuff like that, but yeah.